Okay, I think we're rolling. Hello and good morning or good afternoon or even good evening to you, and welcome to another Spider Strategies educational webinar. Here on the last day of April, we're going to be discussing best practices for dashboard development in both QuickScore and Scoreboard. My name is Tom Keating, and I have the pleasure of being your presenter today. I am here in the United States in Minnesota. I'm a customer success advocate here at Spider Strategies. I cover the United States and Canada, and so hopefully some of you out there already know me by voice maybe, and now you can see me by face as well. And I do invite people to contact me anytime at tom.keating@spiderstrategies.com. A couple of webinar logistics just need to touch on briefly here before we really get rolling. This webinar, as all of these educational webinars, is being recorded. You live attendees are presently muted. I always like to throw in a minor apology for that, because I would love it if these could really be interactive webinar sessions, but we've learned that if we don't mute you, we inevitably get some kind of background noise, dogs barking when everyone's now working from home and all that. But please feel free to send any questions or any kind of communications that come up from this webinar or anything at all related to Spider Strategies education to us at learn@spiderstrategies.com. We love hearing from you, and we're happy to help any way we can. A quick look at my proposed agenda for today is, we'll start slow with a basic introduction to some dashboarding fundamentals, and we'll do that really through the creation of a fairly simple departmental dashboard. Then we'll get a little more advanced in creating more of a diverse management dashboard. Then we'll have some fun by employing images on dashboards. I'll be showing you how you can create a sales pipeline funnel type dashboard, which people really seem to love whenever we show it in demonstrations and what have you. And then last couple things, just copying and adjusting dashboards so that you can replicate a dashboard that you have and that you like and is in a good layout, and maybe repurpose it and use it in a different area of your business. And lastly, we'll wrap up with just some minor advanced text functions and presenting notes on your dashboards. The product or the solution I'm going to be using today for all of our demonstration and this education experience is QuickScore. I do want to point out that all of the dashboarding skills that I'll be sharing with you, all the functionality that you're going to see in QuickScore, is directly also available in Scoreboard. So those of you who are Scoreboard customers, everything you learn here today in QuickScore, you can also do it in Scoreboard. And then really lastly, before we actually get into QuickScore, just want to orient you that we're going to be employing, as I said, our demonstration environment within QuickScore, which is all built around this mythical global telecommunications company called Mobile World. Hopefully most of you are familiar with it. It's something that we give you within QuickScore and Scoreboard as kind of an art of the possible environment, and we also use it for all of our sales demonstrations and education material. Okay, so with that said, enough of this introduction stuff, let's get to it. I'll start by bringing up QuickScore. I've already logged in, to my demonstration environment here, and of course I've landed at the home page. Now, dashboarding is something that is included under our presentation area in the far upper left of the home page. We've got our personal area, the presentation area, and the foundation area. And dashboards is one of the sections of the presentation area of our solution. Before we get into dashboards, I just want to point out that all of these presentation sections are built off of content that really comes from scorecards, initiatives, and files. So that's just kind of a fundamental concept to be aware of, that what we're going to be building here is obviously nice visualizations, representations of performance, but they're all predicated on the existence of underlying scorecards and or initiatives and or files having been uploaded into QuickScore and available. So we'll start here by just going into the dashboards section of QuickScore. And you'll note here at the very top, I've entered into the Mobile World Inc. organization. And again, I described how Mobile World Inc. is a large, global telecommunications company. So it is certainly comprised of many other underlying divisions or departments. But again, we'll be doing most of our work here today at the Mobile World organization level. And you see here immediately in the dashboard section, the existence of some dashboards. I'm sure it's already caught your attention, the key measure history, the sales versus expenses dashboards, the sales pipeline. That's the dashboard that I alluded to that I'll show you how to create a dashboard like this employing a sales pipeline type image and so forth. We have also here, for today's purposes, I have a bunch of dashboards that I'm going to be just using to give you a sense of reference to what we're going to be creating. So for instance, in this case, just to get started with building a fairly simple, what I like to call cockpit style dashboard, this is one that I created here for the finance department, right? And it just gives them a nice, simple overview of revenue versus costs. And of course, this dashboard, like all others, it's live and dynamic. You can navigate forward and backward over time in the upper right-hand corner using the calendar period selector, whether you use the chevrons or you can adjust the periodicity that you're viewing from maybe monthly. You can change it to quarterly. And, you know, of course, on any of these dashboard speedometers, if you desire to get into more detail about a measure that is being summarized here in the speedometer, a single click will drill you down into the underlying scorecard. So this, again, reiterates what I said earlier, that all of the things that you're going to see on dashboards, most of them, are predicated off of whether it be scorecards or initiatives or files that exist down at the foundation layer of QuickScore and Scoreboard. So this is the dashboard that we're gonna replicate here as a first exercise. Fairly simple dashboard. I'll start by I'm just going to kind of categorize what we're building. You'll notice here that I showed you some examples of dashboards. Please also just take note that you can organize your dashboards by creating folders, just like, you know, good old Windows Explorer, whatever file structures. You can create any number of folders that just help you, you know, categorize and compartmentalize your content. So as I said, I've got, you know, one folder here that has already existing examples of the dashboards that we'll either be creating or working with. And then I have another folder here for today's actual live, you know, webinar. So I'm just going to select that folder of April 2020 dashboard, and I'm going to select at the top of the black navigation pane, new dashboard, to create a new dashboard. Okay, the first step, of course, in creating a dashboard is, let's call this finance, let's call it revenue. Sorry, guys, not the best typist, and cost. Okay, once you give the dashboard a name, you're off and running. So it's simple, single click on create up to the upper right, and I have a brand new dashboard. Now, a couple things about this layout. It is showing me, it's going to continue to show me the name of the dashboard, and it gives me some edit capabilities. I have automatically entered in what we call edit mode. So right now, if I wanted to get out of edit mode, at the very bottom of the black navigation pane, you see there's a yellow button for done. If right now I say, well, I'm not ready to build it, but I still want this thing as just an empty blank canvas, I can certainly do so. And it has, of course, taken on the name that I gave it at the top, but there's, of course, nothing here. If I want to get back in and start working with it, I just simply click edit, either at the bottom of the black navigation pane, or also just be aware, please, that edit also exists at the far upper right next to the calendar period selector. Either way, you're doing the same thing. You're getting back into that edit mode that was the default when I first started creating this. Couple of little tips or tidbits of preference that I have is I don't feel like I need to see the name and these operational buttons here at the top while I'm first designing or developing a dashboard. So I'm going to use this full screen setting up towards the upper right and say, look, I just want the canvas, what I always call the canvas of the dashboard, to take up the majority of the screen. I don't need to see the name or the edit buttons that were up there before. If and when I'm done in full screen mode, you'll see that I can just toggle back into the non-full screen mode where, again, I'm seeing the name and all the operational buttons. But I like to, when I'm designing a dashboard, I want to have all of the whole screen, just the canvas. Now, we're, of course, going to follow the obvious instructions here by adding our first widget. So I'll click on the plus button in the far upper left to start adding, again, what we call widgets. You can think of them as objects or, you know, all kinds of different visualizations, okay? A little thing that I personally like to do, and again, I don't know that I can call this a best practice, it's more of a tip that I just think is important people should be aware of, is I like to make this light gray canvas a little bit bigger so that I really have a lot of room to work with. And I have found that the easiest way to do that is just to throw in a text widget here, and then just put in something like right corner. It doesn't matter what you put in here. It's not about the words. You could just put 3 X's or something if you want. It doesn't matter. But what this allows me to do then is I can use this widget to extend the size of my canvas, to go way, way down, way, way out to the right if I want. And so I just feel like I've got more room to work with right now at this point. Now, eventually, I'll be removing this right corner once I actually have all the content that I truly want on the dashboard. So with that done, then let's just start adding some actual, you saw that we worked with some speedometer widgets in the revenue and cost dashboard that I showed you. So I'm going to, from the list of 10 different widgets here available to me, I'll click speedometer, and then I have to again navigate down into the scorecards area to find the scorecard elements that I want to represent via speedometers. And in this case, they live in the financial organization and under the financial profit and loss scorecard. So I'll open up the revenue theme here and select product revenue, and I'll add it. And while I'm here, I'm going to grab all 6 of the measures or the KPIs that I want to represent via speedometers on my dashboard. So I'll also grab training revenue, and I will also grab book revenue. So those are my 3 revenue elements that I want. Then I'll navigate down under the cost of sale area, and similarly, just real quickly, click add for product costs, add for training venue costs, and add for book production costs. And when I'm done, I just simply click away, and voila, I now have 6 different speedometers available on the screen. Now, I'll be working with them really more than not kind of en masse, but before I do that, I just want to orient you to the editing capabilities that exist on any particular widget. So if you click on a widget, whether it be a speedometer or later you'll see bubbles, I'll show you charts, there's any of them have an edit capability. It's represented by this little gray gear in the upper right. If I click on it, a menu appears giving me a pretty wide variety of controls, editing control over this particular widget. And I don't want to belabor each and every single setting here because I don't know if we have enough time today to do this on all the widgets with all the properties. But just real quickly, there's something as simple as, well, when someone clicks and drills down, where are they going to go? And I showed you an example how I drilled through one speedometer and went into the scorecard. That's the default. But you can, if you desire, you can direct a drill through path to something else, a wide variety of other types of applications within QuickScore or Scoreboard. You also can pick and choose what you're showing. What would you like to display on this speedometer, this widget? Okay, and again, I'll make a mass change on all these in a second. Again, what type of background might you want to have? Do you want like a white background or whatnot? Would you like to customize the size? Now, of course, I can do plenty of drag and drop using the nice anchors in the corners and along the sides. I can drag and drop to resize as well. But if I have to get really pixel perfect on the size, I do have the ability to adjust the size manually by pixels, height and width. Okay. Regarding also sizing and positioning, one other thing I should point out is just a fundamental thing for you. In the far upper right of any given dashboard, there's a settings button. And there's just a couple simple settings up here. One is you can adjust the background color and make it white. If you want a brighter dashboard background or canvas, go for it. The default is just kind of a subtle gray. The other setting that's up here to be aware of is the snap to setting. So there are just basically 3 settings here. It's either widgets, or if I click grid, you'll notice that a grid has appeared on the canvas, or I could say I don't want any. Now, when it says widgets, what that basically means, you'll notice if I start moving this widget around, notice how a subtle blue line, in this case a horizontal blue line, appears. If I go down below something, then a vertical line appears. So that's what we're talking about when you do your snap to and you leave it at widgets. Okay? So I've got my 6 speedometers. They're pretty fundamentally simple in nature. It's not telling me a whole lot of information. So what I'm going to do is adjust how they all look by lassoing around all 6 of them and going to one of the speedometer's edit control and say, I would also like to see the score for a given time period. I don't want to see the organization. And I would also please like to see the threshold values. So, in a couple simple clicks, I've expanded what I'm seeing here for all 6 different widgets. And then at this point, it's simple, just drag and drop. So we've got a couple different revenue speedometers. We've got some cost speedometers, and I just kind of want to position the revenue towards the top and the cost down towards the bottom. Now, if I start laying these things out and they're not exactly, again, lined up perfectly, we also have some controls where if I say, look, I want everything to be horizontally aligned with book revenue along that first row. Again, I can lasso around all of these and then say, hey, let's align all of them on the bottom of the lowest. And over here, at the bottom down here, I can also do the same thing and say, let's also align all of these. You could use top, bottom, or sides. It's kind of your choice and what makes sense. And then again, you can just individually drag and drop things around. Again, note the lines appear to help you get them situated and positioned directly next to and above the other associated widgets on the page. So there is a really good start to this dashboard. I want to make it a little more straightforward, like what is this information? Some of it's revenue, some of it's cost. So I can easily go in here and just add another couple widgets. One is just a text widget. I showed you earlier creating a text widget for my lower right corner. In this case, I'm going to make it something that is really, being used as a label for some of these elements on the page. So I'll go up here and say that's revenue. And again, I can reposition that anywhere I want it to go. I can highlight the text and, adjust the font size. I can bold it. I can underline it if it makes sense and so forth. I don't want to do it italics. Okay, so I can do all those great things with revenue. Let's actually make it bold. Okay, and then once revenue exists, I might want a similar kind of thing, but it says cost. Well, I could start all over again and create a brand new text object, or I could go to revenue and just go over here and duplicate it. So now I've got 2 revenues, right? And I can reposition this second one, move it down, and then again, just adjust what it says. So instead of saying revenue, now it says costs. So there you have it. One very simple dashboard. Now, when I'm done designing this dashboard, I can go and remove, if I want, that right corner widget, the text widget that I had used just to, adjust the size of the whole canvas. And then when I'm done here, again, it's important that you click Save to save the work that you've done in the upper right-hand corner. And then I want to exit full screen. And then, of course, I want to get out of edit mode so that I can actually see this dashboard in action, actually giving me the information that I want to see over different periods of time. So in the matter of about 5, I don't know how long that took with all my talking, probably 5 or maybe 10 minutes, I created this dashboard. Again, it's fully functional, just like the one I showed you earlier. I can adjust the time periods in the upper right, navigate forward and backwards over time, and so forth. Again, drilling down, if I click on, training revenue, I again drill down into the scorecard for training revenue. Once I'm in the scorecard, I can navigate around, anywhere that I really want to go. And then if I want to get back to the dashboard, there's a couple of choices. You can use your browser back button to just follow your own analysis path back through the web pages, or you can always just return to the dashboards section and find the dashboard wherever it lives there. So that's one, again, simple dashboard. The next dashboard that we'll move on to is a little more complex, although it's really fundamentally the same, construction process, is we've got this one called Mobile World Overview Dashboard. And I know that it's probably not coming across real good right now in terms of the size and, my screen resolution. So one thing that's nice about these dashboards is you can click, there's a magnifying glass kind of thing you can click to make it bigger or smaller and take advantage of whatever real estate is being offered within, the GUI. So if I keep giving it more and more space by collapsing my navigation panes over on the left, the dashboard continues to expand and take advantage of whatever space I give it, and or I can zoom in and zoom out. So this is the dashboard that we'll create next here. Again, it's not overly complex, but One thing that I will point out to you that's kind of cool is this, that we love working here. That's just my way of putting in an image. I wanted to put in an image that I can show you that it can be dynamic in nature, so that as your images potentially change or updated, marketing people come out with new images, you can build them once, and then over time, as things change, you can automatically reflect the changes to those files that may be being made. Okay, so that's our goal here, is to create now, in this case, this dynamic, dashboard, which again, in this case, the last one was like a finance department dashboard, fairly simple in nature. This is more complex. It's more of an overview for the corporate level, the bosses at the top, so that they can look at all the different, balanced scorecard perspectives that are in play here. And again, they can navigate, again, forward and backwards in time. Again, they can do the same drill through kind of stuff, and they've got a nice comparative over time performance supported by a table, and then again, a report showing two different, current and previous time period performance, and a lot of, if you will, the gory details about all the information that's coming in the underlying scorecard that is really being rolled up into the graphs and the bubbles, the performance bubbles at the top. So our goal here, as I said, is to recreate this dashboard now. Okay, so to do that, again, I'll navigate to my April 2020 dashboard webinar live folder, and again create a new dashboard. So we'll just call this overview dashboard, and we'll get to work. Again, click create. Again, as I kind of follow my own best advice, I like to add that little text widget to give myself a sense of, more room. We'll call it this time more room. Doesn't matter what I call it. And that is now ready to go to serve its job of giving me, a kind of an anchor down in the lower right-hand corner. Again, I prefer to work in full screen mode, so I'll click full screen. And again, go ahead and move this anywhere I want. Now, I'm presuming you guys are aware that because this is a browser-based solution, I can use my, my control plus and control negative on this is a PC that I'm working with, to give myself a different resolution on the screen. But I guess my thing that I really want you to know is, again, you can drag something way, way, way off the visual screen, and it will just continue to expand. And you'll note that then a scroll bar appears on the right, allowing you to scroll up and down the entirety of the canvas that you've, structured. Okay, so let's go ahead and build that dashboard by, again, adding some widgets. We're going to use different types of widgets this time, expanding just kind of exposure to the widgets. So we'll first add a couple of bubbles to tie back to the perspectives that Mobile World Inc. tracks. So they, of course, are built out in a kind of a classic balanced scorecard methodology. So we want a bubble for our financial perspective. We want a bubble for customer. We want one for internal processes, and one for organizational capacity. And very much like the speedometers that I showed you earlier, I now have 4 different widgets that are here on the page, ready to go. Before I even start positioning them, I'm going to again lasso around all of them and go to the settings and say, you know what, I'm going to change the shape of these. I don't really want them to be an oval. I prefer that they be a rounded rectangle. And I'd like to also show some more information here. I'd like to see their scores, and I'd also like to see their description. I want to know what these things are supposed to do. And so then once those exist, then I can just start, again, dragging and dropping these and putting them, wherever I want them to be on the page. Again, they can use the nice alignment arrows, or lines, I should say, to get everything, visually aligned the way you want it to be. Again, just moving things around and positioning them where I feel like they should go. Okay, so that's easy schmeezy. Again, if you're concerned about the alignment, as I said earlier, you can lasso around all of them and just, do, in this case, maybe like a top align. Let's align all those on the top. So that's good to go. The next thing that you saw on that page, as I alluded to, was the heart image that was in the upper left. So in this case, I'll add a widget, and in this case, it's going to be an image. Now, when you add an image onto a dashboard, you have a couple of choices here. You can upload an image that maybe lives locally on your desktop or on your computer or on the network somewhere, what have you, okay? Or you can add what we call a shared image. Now, the story behind the shared image is this is something that was uploaded into, in this case, QuickScore, into the files area of QuickScore. And the same thing is in Scoreboard. So in my case, I earlier, before the class, I uploaded an image here called, heart image. So it lives here in the files area, and I can grab that heart image and I can add it. Okay? And then I can position it, resize it, whatever I want it to do. Okay? So we'll just leave that there as it is for now, and I'll come back and address how that actually, the image itself can change if I create another, if you will, version of that heart image and I want it to look different. All right, moving on though, let's add a graph to our dashboard. Come on, add a widget. So we're going to add what is called a chart here, chart or graph, either way. Now charts, when you add a chart, you can go out and grab an existing chart that maybe has been created somewhere else, or you can build a chart from scratch ad hoc. And I'm going to show you building one ad hoc from scratch here right now. And this really falls back to fundamental just charting skills, which hopefully most of you already know how to create a chart within QuickScore or Scoreboard. And it's really just, honestly, it's the same thing. So I'm going to grab, in this case, I'm just going to create a chart that represents, again, our performance of our perspectives over time. So again, I'm grabbing the same scorecard elements here of financial, customer, internal processes. But note that if I click financial and then I click customer, it's creating, as you might expect, two different graphs, one for financial and one for customer, which would be fine if I really wanted that. But what I want is I want all four perspectives on one graph. So this second graph of customer is not the path that I really intended to take, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. But what I will do is adjust this existing financial graph and have it deliver to me what I want to see, which is, again, as I said, all four perspectives represented by different lines on the same graph. So to do that, I will return to the edit. Remember the edit gear in the upper right, and I alluded to every widget is going to have some edit capabilities, and they differ. So I obviously in this case can say, well, I'm going to change the chart title right now. So I'm just going to say that it's not just going to be financial. I'll say overall performance. Sorry guys, bad typing. Performance. Okay, and then I'll click done. So the name of the chart has changed. Big whoop. What I really want to do is fundamentally change the nature of the data that's on the chart. So I click Edit Chart. And again, you should hopefully recognize this interface if you're familiar with charting in QuickScore or Scoreboard. Now, what I simply want to do is expand the number of data elements or series that I'm presenting on this chart. So I'm going to include also customer. And then I'm going to add another series that will be, of course, internal processes. And then one last series here that I'll add is, of course, our organizational capacity. So my chart now is, and I can adjust the colors that are, being used for each of those lines. But if I click done, I now have a chart that shows me all four of my perspectives and their score-based normalized score performance over, in this case, a full year. Now that may be a little bit long in terms of time perspective. So I'm going to, again, change and just say, let's just look at 6 months. So I'll go back to 5 periods earlier and then say done. So it's kind of simplifying the chart or the graph a little bit. And then really the last thing that I want to do is support this chart or this graph with it's a table, right, underneath it. So if I, again, go back to the edit properties, there's a specific property here to show table. So with one click of one button, I now have a supporting table down below that it's almost like an expanded legend, if you will, for the information that is being presented in the chart up above. Okay, so we're getting there on this dashboard. And again, you can always reposition, resize things, whatever makes sense for you, visually and graphically. And then in my case, I'm going to just move more room down a little bit further, because the last element that I also want on this dashboard is that report. Now, when you create a report, or when you add a report, this is something that, again, it's from the list of widgets here. So if I click report, I need to go out and find an existing report. This differs from the charting because you can't dynamically build a report right within the dashboard. The report has to already exist. So I have that two time period report that I showed you earlier with all the detail information about the underlying scorecard that's being summarized, in my now rectangular bubbles and, my chart and everything. And then I'm just going to take and just move this report down towards the bottom, position it wherever I want it to go, resize it and so forth so that it lays out nicely on the page. If I want to see all the columns, I do have to go a little bit wider. So maybe I'll just try and finagle some centering there and position that appropriately. And then when I'm done here, I'll say, well, okay, I really don't need this more room thing anymore. I've got all the real estate that I need for this overall graph, okay, or chart, dashboard, I should say, okay. And again, at this point, I click Save, and then I want to get out of full screen mode so I can get back into the design area where I can remove myself from edit mode. So at the bottom of the black navigation pane, I'll click Done. And this, this dashboard is now alive and kicking. It's fully functional. Again, I can adjust the time that I'm viewing here, show the change in performance over time. I can navigate up and down and sideways through the report at the bottom, what have you. I can use the table beneath the graph to dive in and take a look at detail information about anything that I see there. So again, it's live and dynamic, ready to go. Now, thing I wanted to point out here, this icon, the heart icon, or the heart image in the far upper left. Let's imagine that someone has said, look, that heart icon is too simple. There's another one that we have that I would really prefer that you use instead, okay? So again, let me just take it on the left over to the files area and go back, to the background images. And so this, you may recall I said what we did is we uploaded a heart image, okay, which is fine, and it looks like a heart, but we've got another one that we'd prefer to use instead. Now what I can do is upload the heart image by going up here to the upper right and say drag and drop a revision, okay? So if I go out and find the other image, the two hearts image is what I'd like to do. I'd like to revise that image. So I click open. It is now uploaded, okay? And you see here that we've now have this as an image that's available. I could download it if I want to and view it and make sure what it looks like and what have you. I don't need to do that. But what I can do is click edit here, and then I can say this heart image, let's see, this one is going to go, I'm going to remove the first one, okay? And so it says, wait a minute, are you sure you want to do that? Remove the revision, wait, cancel. Yeah, I hope I did that right. So hearts2 image.png, there we go. So that's the two hearts one. So that has been updated. So I click done. And so now it should be using this new image automatically. So if I go back again to my dashboards and go find the dashboard that we just created, my overview dashboard, you see now that the two hearts are present, okay? So again, the idea of if you're going to be doing logoing or branding and acknowledging that things may change over time, that's a quick and easy way and a more efficient way than having to go in and one by one in all your myriad dashboards, replace an old image with a new one. Okay? All right, so that's that dashboard. The next dashboard that we're going to address is one that I think is fun because this dashboard, whenever I show this when I'm doing demonstrations or education, people really seem to latch onto this. They just love this image. They like how it conveys data very simply and obviously, and the color coding they love. They, of course, love the opportunity, as on all other dashboards, to be able to investigate what's happening behind the scenes. So if I click New Trials, what the heck is happening? Why are new trials in the tank? We can look at this again historically over time and so forth. And then, of course, obviously, just get back to the dashboard. So how does this come together? And again, I'm going to move from creating things brand new from scratch. I'm going to kind of start treating this like a little bit more like a cooking show, where I've already done a fair amount of the work and now I'll just teach you how it's all done. So on this sales pipeline, if I edit it, so I'm in edit mode, and again, you guys know by now I like to work in full screen, so I'll click on full screen. In edit mode, here's the deal, guys, and this is where I kind of joke that it's kind of smoke and mirrors is really what this is. Good smoke and mirrors, very efficient, very helpful smoke and mirrors. That what we have is these are just, obviously, these actually are bubbles, but they've been set into rectangles. So if I just pick on one of these, this new customers, for example, all of these came to life on the dashboard by simply being added as a bubble widget. So this thing started its life as a bubble, and it was smaller, but we resized it, changed its shape to be a rectangle, adjusted anything we wanted, such as, font size. We made the font, bigger than it initially was. We decided 29, I guess, was the perfect number for all of these different, things. And so they are all live in and of themselves. And that's what you're really drilling into and really presenting, and when you do any kind of manipulation of the dashboard. And then this funnel is something that we came up with from outside of QuickScore. You go on Google or go on the World Wide Web and find images. Ideally, they're translucent like this. And then again, what we did was we uploaded this image into that files repository that I showed you earlier. And then we're just calling that image from that repository, okay? And again, this can be resized, whether it be manually, or again, you can adjust, very specifically to the pixels, how big it should be, and I can drag and drop and make it bigger and smaller. And then the key to this process is one of the properties here of an image is keep in front, okay? If I turn this off and then move the funnel back over, whoops, now I just am looking at my, kind of ugly rectangles, right? But if I put the setting back to keep in front turned on and move it over on top of the squares, the rectangles, and reposition it appropriately, then there I'm back to my nice, pretty little funnel. And again, I can at this point say save, and then get out of full screen mode. Again, in this case, click done, and there we go, and we're back and live. And again, it's, we can navigate forward and backward in time, adjust, the periodicity, do any kind of drilling down that we want. So that's just one simple example of the power that you can bring to play on your dashboards, where, out of the box, of course, we give you widgets in a wide variety of styles and shapes, and they do a great job of presenting information. But if you have other images that you want to leverage, you can. So that's that. All right, the next topic here then that we wanted to touch on is copying and adjusting existing dashboards. So in this case, we'll be using one it's a pretty simple dashboard that we have here. I've already got it up here. I need to find it. Here we go. Nope, it's not that one. Oh boy, what did I call it? It's the sales performance dashboard. There we go, for overall performance, okay? So this, folks, is a super simple dashboard, of course, no question about it. And what this is doing is it's representing for us our overall sales performance for the entire sales organization. And again, Mobile World Inc. has a pretty complex sales organization, where the U.S. being the largest market, they break down into regions and into districts and what have you. They've got different world regions of Latin America, Africa, Australasia, and so forth, right? So the idea here is that this dashboard that we're looking at is showing me performance for the entire sales, division. And that's fine. That's great for that. But what I want is to be able to have that same dashboard, but pertinent to just a district office of Northeast, or just a single region of the world, like, let's say, Africa. So the question here is, how do I leverage an existing dashboard that I built at a certain level for a certain purpose and say, now I want more of that? And you can just copy. The simple answer is you copy it and then you repurpose it appropriately. So we'll just, again, give you a sense of how that is done pretty quickly and easily. So I've got Northeast and Southeast. What if I want to create a Northwest and the Southwest, right? So I'll probably just create one of them in the spirit of saving time. But what I'll do is, of course, start with the original dashboard, and I get into edit mode on the original dashboard. And this is where it is, of course, important to be able to see the operational buttons at the top, where I can move it, I can copy it, I can delete it. We can create a template for it if you'd like. If this is something that you say, anytime I make a change to this dashboard, I want it replicated out to lots of different dashboards. That's where a template comes into play. but it also has, if you will, some dangers in terms of limitations of what you can and can't do on the copies that come from it. So in this case, I'm going to keep it simple and just copy this dashboard. Okay. Now I'm saying, as I said, I want this for our, our sales area of the world, but I'm just going to go ahead and just create this copy right here in Mobile World. I could, of course, navigate down into the sales area and create it down in the Northwest region of the sales organization, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it here in this folder that as you guys know, I've been working with here today with our live demo. I'll go ahead and just put this in the April 2020 dashboard webinar live. Okay, so there's now a copy of the sales performance dashboard down here, further down in my folder that we're working with here today. So there it is. Now it still is showing me verbatim what the parent or what the original dashboard showed me, which is overall sales performance across the whole sales world. But this one I want to be just Northwest. So what I'm going to do is, again, edit it and repurpose it. So again, you guys know I like to work in full screen when I don't need those buttons up at the top. So there is a button up here on the toolbar that we haven't talked about. It's pretty subtle. It's called swap. And what swap allows you to do is pretty much what its name says. You swap some data with other data. So in this case, first of all, I'm going to edit this. I want to change the name. Bear with me before I forget. I often forget about simple things like name changing, right? So this is not going to be overall performance anymore. This is going to be for the Northwest office, right? So boy, I'm a bad typer, Northwest, okay? And then I'll go ahead and just save that with that simple change. Then back to editing this. Again, I like to be in full screen. So I'm going to go to value of sales, one of the widgets, and say, I would like to swap the data that is feeding value of sales with other data that's specific just to the Northwest sales district. So I'll click the swap button, and it gives me the opportunity to actually work with all the widgets that are on the screen. And it says right up here in blue, here's all your items. Choose one that you want to work with to replace its occurrences in the dashboard. So in this case, it's value of sales is the first speedometer I want to change. I'll click on value of sales. And what I need to do is go point it to where the Northwest division's value of sales is. So I'll expand the US, I'll expand West Coast, I'll find Northwest, and then over on the right, you see value of sales. So we have a measure, of course, the value of sales for the Northwest. I just need this speedometer to now point to that as its source, not the overall sales performance. So I click done, okay? And then I click done again, okay? And you'll note that it is now showing me value of sales for Northwest. So the value has changed, and the name reflects the source of that information. I can do the exact same thing with number of sales. I'll swap out where this is going. Again, in this case, it's the number of sales widget that I want to adjust. Again, I just need to do the quick, navigation now to my West Coast and find my Northwest and grab my number of sales and say done and say done. So that takes care of those two things. Now, there is an alternate approach to doing this. And if you're going to swap out some widgets, you can use the swap capability. If you're going to swap out data with other widgets, there's another way that it can be done. So with regard to the graph, the graph is continuing to show me the sales for the whole world. And that's not appropriate for this particular dashboard. So I'm going to click on it. Again, click on the edit button towards the upper right. And I'm going to edit this chart. Well, first of all, I'm going to set the chart title and have it just say sales, of course, in this case, Northwest. Handy dandy right there, spares me the typing. So I'm showing that as the title now. But to edit the chart is the key here and where the data is coming from. So again, I'll click on the edit button, select edit chart, and then quite simply just change the source of the information. So right here, the one series that this chart is showing, I just want to change where it's getting its information. And I don't want it to get it from the grand poobah of sales. I want it to get this information just from, of course, the Northwest district. Come on. Sorry. doop, and go to West Coast and go to Northwest, right? And so that's where I wanted to get the data, is for just the sales in the Northwest, and click done. And so that graph will now only show me Northwest information or data. So that's how simple and easy it can be to take an existing, again, I'll just do a quick save here. And so this dashboard, again, is exactly like its grand poobah, the one showing all of the sales for the world, but obviously it's now limited to just Northwest District data and information. I didn't change the sales pipeline because you hopefully get the point at this point. Okay? So that takes care of the copying and adjusting dashboards, which is our second to last agenda item here for today. So one more to go is just leveraging what I would call advanced text functions and presenting some notes on a dashboard. So there is a dashboard here. I'm going to get out of edit mode. I'll click done. We have a dashboard here that does a good job of conveying communication, internal notes and collaboration and communication, that go on behind the scenes. And again, hopefully you guys are all aware that most elements in the scorecards section of QuickScore or Scoreboard have the opportunity to assign or apply notes and comments and responses and replies and everything. Back and forth communication can exist around, scorecard elements. Now, of course, I shouldn't make presumptions about what you know, but, it does, these notes and such live, in the scorecard. So if I were to go to financial, I'm trying to remember where I've got notes. So if I go to revenue and go to a certain time period here, you're gonna have to bear with me. I need to get to a certain time period where I've set up some notes here. So February of 2020, okay, and say, show me that. So you'll note here that starting in January of 2020, somebody started adding notes in here about this revenue measure. And so they say, uh-oh, hey, January 2020, apparently there's a new virus out there that might impact business. Everybody, please wash your hands. And then in February, there's another note here that says, oh boy, the more I learn, the worse it seems to be for our business. And then somebody replied to that, right? They said, and please call me anytime if you have questions. So these notes exist in the scorecard. And the question a lot of times people say, well, I don't want to give the real estate for them to be presented all the time. I don't want to have to dive into the scorecard to see the communication and collaboration that's occurring behind the scenes. Can I get that on something like a dashboard? And the answer is heck yes, you can. Of course you can. So if you can bear with me and let me just navigate back to my scorecards area here. I showed you the strategic communications one, which I think it's a good representation of bringing together a variety of graphics and information, and then again, very overtly sharing and showing the communications that's happening behind the scenes. So in our world, I've got a dashboard here that's, kind of ready to go. Where did it go? Actually, we'll use this one, advanced playground. So here we go. So this is the same kind of general concept of what I showed you in that other dashboard, is I'm displaying notes and I'm showing them in a couple different ways. Just take note here that the first notes are being presented as what we call tiles, kind of summarized tiles, whereas the right-hand instance of the notes for revenue is being presented in a more expanded sort of list view that gives you immediate access to being able to add a reply, review the revenue measure right from the communication or the text that's right here. And these are two examples of the exact same widget. It's just a notes widget. So if I go into edit mode, and if I want, this again is just a notes widget. So let me just show you that from, the listing of widgets. And again, today we can't cover all 10 of these, but there is a notes widget. And then you just point that widget to whatever kind of either scorecard item or initiative has the notes that you want to display on the dashboard. So in this case, if I were to, do this again, I could go to, again, the financial area and to that revenue theme where I know I've got some notes, and I click add. So now I've got yet another instance of my, notes here on the page. Now note that it comes into life looking like the one in the upper left here, with, as I described, like a tile presentation of the notes. And if I were to change, that there are several notes. So what it's doing here is it's showing just the notes for the one time period that we're looking at. But if I change the periodicity to quarterly and show the results, you can see now in the tile view that there are, several notes that have been added or responses over the 3 months comprising Q1 of 2020. And the question is, how do you want to see your notes? Do you like the tile view, or do you prefer the more expanded all information type view? So I'm gonna get rid of this second instance now that you know how to create it. And again, how these notes are shown is, again, it's a simple setting. It's a display as setting. Do you want it to be abbreviated tiles as we have on the left, or do you want full notes as you have on the right? So 2 simple choices, 2 different presentation formats. So that's being able to leverage notes on a dashboard in a couple of different ways. And I'll just go ahead and show it as I like the abbreviated tiles. Okay, then really the last thing, and it's good we're getting towards the top of the hour, that I wanted to share with you is somewhat advanced text capability. So in edit mode, if I can direct your attention here to the top of this dashboard, it says today is : and then there's a special text value here that's opening square bracket, the word today, and closing square bracket. Okay, then it's just back to normal text. This dashboard shows opening bracket calendar, closing bracket around calendar, and then performance through, and then it shows calendar dash period. Okay, those are special text elements that do a pretty cool function. So if I say I'm done, I'm going to save. I was going to save this dashboard as it is and say done. When I actually view the dashboard, it's now showing me that today is, in fact, today. It's April 30 of 2020. This dashboard presently shows quarterly performance through Q1 2020. Well, what if I say, hey, let's see this by year? So I change the quarter, right? It's still showing quarterly, but if I say, no, let's view this by now year over year. So if I change that to yearly through 2019, it is now dynamically reflecting that this dashboard shows yearly performance through 2019. And now it's showing yearly performance through 2020, and now 2018, and so forth. So those particular little text items are just little things that you should just be aware of. And then you can just put them anywhere you want on your dashboard to just hopefully clarify the data that is being shown on the dashboard, so that someone isn't constantly required to look to the upper right and have an understanding of, oh, that's why I'm seeing what I'm seeing, is because I'm looking at it at a time period maybe someone came in and expected to see this monthly, right? But they end up opening it and it's yearly, and they say, what is this? At least they know what this dashboard is doing, and then they can make whatever types of adjustments that they feel are necessary. Okay, folks, that's it. That wraps up, what I'm intending to show here for today. So again, if we just review, what I said we were going to cover and what we did, some basic introduction to fundamentals of dashboarding, creation of a simple, we did a finance department dashboard, cockpit style dashboard, a little more diverse overall management dashboard, showed you the fun funnel, how to use images on your dashboards, copying and adjusting, and lastly, of course, the text function and the notes. So that's it. I guess at this point, considering that I can't hear you or anything, I will thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. Hope this was helpful. Please, again, feel free to contact us anytime at all at learn@spiderstrategies.com. And before I let you go, let me just put in a plug for next Thursday's, again, weekly free education webinar is going to be covering, my colleague Frank is going to be covering initiatives and the great power that initiatives bring to play to help you stay on top of your intended performance improvements and whether they're really improving business or not. So Frank will be covering initiatives in depth next Thursday, May 7th. Same bat time, different bat day. Again, thank you all very much for your time and attention. I hope it was helpful, and we really appreciate you as customers, prospects, and partners, and we hope to hear from you soon. Take care.